We're here again, and we're going to send a strong message to the UK government on the day of the budget that it's unacceptable that you keep on bailing out the rich and not looking after the workers. So what do we want? We want a fair deal for Wales. We want fair funding for Wales. We want fair funding for workers. So I'm only here to do the chanting. So comrades, colleagues, Siobhan Attad, the General Secretary of the Wales TUC, I'm handing over.
We're back again, eh? Back again. But what's different about today? Today is budget day. So what is it that we think we're going to be getting in this infamous budget? Because we know there's at least about, what, 3 billion odd that we're currently missing from what we should be already in receipt of in Wales. And of course, we're hearing a couple of little things being said about childcare. Good stuff on the childcare, absolutely, we want more childcare. But we want to make sure that those people who are employed to then look after our children also have decent pay and fair terms and conditions. What else is it that we're looking for? Of course, it would be lovely not to have to make a choice between heating and eating, which is the current experience of pretty much everyone that's standing out here today. So they said, it sounds like they're going to put that little cap on again, and they're going to give us, what is it, like 60 odd quid or something a month back each. Lovely, thank you very much. But then given that it's what, as far as food prices are concerned, we haven't seen our food prices up at this level for at least about 45 years. 45 years has been. I mean, has anyone looked? I mean, I'm sure some of you would have experienced that. Oh, where's all the tomatoes gone? Where am I supposed to actually go for the cheapest pint of milk? Or basic bread even? And our shelves being empty and they're saying, oh, well, you know, it's just some of the difficulty that we're having on the border because obviously we left the European Union and we don't know what we're doing, which is basically the case. But the real reason why we're out here today is because there are still hundreds of thousands of public sector workers who are fighting and demanding pay restoration, fair pay, the end of casualisation, the end of fire and rehire, and the banning of zero-hour contracts. We've got an excellent lineup of speakers for you. So today is all about solidarity with the strikers. This is yet again the union movement coming together, standing really strong and proud, but also sharing with you that actually striking works. Striking means that we win. We've seen some of the settlements now that are currently being put to members in both health and in education. Unlike in England where we've seen no movement, nothing. Yet another government missing in action. But apparently, they might throw us some crumbs today. So like you, I'm looking forward to seeing what those crumbs actually look like. But I know that we've got a massive fight on our hands. Because these people, the Tories, we need them out of government once and for all. Tories represent absolutely nothing, profiteering, they look after themselves, that is who they are. Do not ever believe that they are ever going to work in the interests of working people. They do not share our class solidarity. They don't know, they want to attack us, but the one thing that we know for sure is that the union movement will continue to grow, will continue to stand in solidarity, and we will win. I just wanted to pass on, before I pass on to our first speaker, Brendan Kelly, the RNT Regional Organiser and President of the Wales TUC, unfortunately is unwell, so he hasn't been able to join us today. He wanted me to pass on his best wishes and solidarity to all of you. But I want to pass you on now to the fantastic Marianne Owens from the PCS Union.
I'm PCS NEC, but I also work in this building, so welcome to the HMRC Valuation Office and HSE picket line. It's been an absolutely fantastic morning out here. We've been here since 7 o'clock and the amount of support has been brilliant, and it's absolutely wonderful to see so many of you here from all different unions. But there are 130,000 civil servants on strike across the country today. And the reason why we're on strike, the reason why we've been taking action for weeks now, for months, we've been taking, the 1st of February, HMRC and some others, Welsh Government have joined today because we got over the Tories anti-union thresholds, and the museums, who you're going to hear from later, have got over today, and we're on strike today. But other areas of our union have been out since before Christmas. We've been stopping the ports, we've been stopping other places, we've been making sure that we're having an impact with that sustained action that we've been taking and keeping people out. And that's what we're going to have to do, because let's have a look at what's actually happening here. For PCS, for people in my union, we've been offered 2%. Now, what is inflation at? That is at least an 8% pay cut. That is at least an 8% pay cut that they're offering us, whilst they can find billions and billions of pounds for war, whilst they can find billions and billions of pounds to try and deport people to Rwanda, the most vulnerable people in this society. One of the things I'm really proud of my union for over the last year is the legal action we've taken against the pushback to small boats and against the Rwanda plan to try and stop this government from picking on the weakest people in society. Because I think it's Tony Benn, isn't it, that says, the way that you treat refugees is the way that the country, indicates what the country would do to the rest of us, and they would do that to the rest of us because they are trying their hardest to make sure that we don't have a voice. They've brought in the anti-trade union laws, they've tried to stop us striking, but look at this. We've got PCS, we've got UCU, we've got the RNT, we've got others on strike today across the country in England. You've got the BMA, you've got the NEU, all these people on strike, and it is absolutely brilliantly important that we are doing this together because we are starting to make a difference. That's quite clear because they are clearly starting to be under pressure. Last time we were on strike on the 1st of February, they recalled the Cobra Committee to talk about it, for national emergencies. Clearly, we're having that effect and we need to continue in doing that. Now, it's not just pay that we're on strike for over in PCS. Pensions, they all talk about civil servants' gold-plated pensions. Well, we've been paying since 2017 2% too much for our pensions. They're taking that out of our pay, and they've decided that they won't give it back. And earlier this week, we got a court ruling that didn't go in our favour, and I think what that says to us is that where our power lies is never going to be with the courts, and we can never rely on the courts. But what we do need to do is make sure that we're on the streets and we're being loud and we are fighting. Because let's put it this way, this Tory government are weak, but they're vicious. And what we have to do is push them with all that we can, united together in the fight, because we've got a world to win. We know what that society can look like. We know that, there's plenty of money there for all of the other things that they want to be able to pay for. So that means that there's money for us as public sector workers. People are in this building who deliver, collect the taxes that pay for every public service in this country, are in a pay situation in April where the national minimum wage rises, where the people on the lowest grade, 19,000 of them that work, in this part of the government, will be on national minimum wage. They'll have to have a £350 annual uplift to actually be on national minimum wage. That is the department that actually, is supposed to be administering the national minimum wage, and that is a disgrace. And if you look across at other areas of the public sector, thousands of our members are using food banks, thousands of our members are only being paid minimum wage, thousands of our members are claiming in work benefits. That government employees having to claim subsidies to be able to actually afford to live because their wages are so low. And we have to say, enough is enough. We need to keep up the pressure, we need to keep up the strikes, and we stay on the streets until we win. And we stay on the streets until they give in and they actually give us a living wage and a living pay rise and fix all of the other issues that we need them to fix. So I'm going to leave it there because we've got a load of brilliant speakers. But I think it's absolutely fantastic that you're all here today. I'm really glad. It's probably the biggest picket line we've ever had. So thank you all for coming along. And let's get out there and fight.
Thank you, Marion, for that. And a message of solidarity. Next is Daniel Manny from Prospect. Over to you, Daniel.
Yeah, thank you. Hi everybody, what a lovely day. Chancellor, how about fairly paying all the public sector workers who aren't going back to work because they never bloody stopped working? All the way through the pandemic, all the way through Brexit, and now all the way through a Tory-made cost of living crisis. Public sector workers have kept this country going. And what's their reward for it? Well, I'll tell you what their reward for it is. Massive cuts in their take-home pay and an unrelenting attack on their credibility. No more. Enough is enough. We at Prospect are on strike today across the UK and in Wales and even in the building behind me. We, along with PCS, junior doctors, many of our fellow colleagues in education and transport, we're all out striking today, standing up for hard-working public sectors against this callous and cruel Tory government. While our members are struggling to heat their homes, they are heating their stables and their swimming pools. And then they have the gall to tell all of us that we need to just work a little bit harder for less money. We can't work any harder. People are already working all the hours that God sends them. What more do they expect us to do? Well, Chancellor, we're not backing down from this fight, and it's about time that they recognise the damage that they have inflicted on this country over the last 13 years. They need to change course. They must change course. We want them to fairly reward all public sector workers. That's every single one of them, because they are the backbone of this country, not them. Public sector pay has fallen by about 26% in real terms. I would love to know how much MP's pay has fallen in real terms, but I'll have to guess it's zero, it's gone up. The UK government say they're willing to negotiate, but then say they're not going to talk about pay. What is the point of talking about everything else other than pay? We can't have, platitudes will not pay our members' bills. It's time the Chancellor put his money where his mouth is and paid up. Solidarity to all the unions striking today and over the coming weeks. The public are with us. The trade union movement is more united than it has been for decades. We can and we will win this fight. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for that. So there's a message for Jeremy Hunt. Stop looking after your friends at the top and pay the workers. It's from UCU, Renata Medeiros. So over to you.
Thank you. Hello everyone. So we UCU are so very glad to be here today. We are almost not going to be here, and our members demanded that this day was called so that we could join all the other unions on strike, so that all of us together can send a message of unity and strength to our employers and to our governments. Thank you. UCU members have been on strike, as far as I can remember, on and off, on pay and working conditions since 2013. Then in 2018 they came for our pensions, so we've been on and off on strike over that as well. There is no doubt that if our salaries and our conditions are not even worse than what they are today, that was because of our strikes. And there is no doubt that if we still have any pensions left, that's also because of our strikes. And that's why our pickets are still so strong. But it's also true that it has been a long time fighting for not that much gain. So some of us might start wondering, because fighting for what is rightly ours is demanding. It's exhausting and it's very unfair. We shouldn't have to be doing this. So some people might be wondering, what is the point? What have we achieved? How much longer will this carry on? And what the answer has to be to that is as long as needed. It will take us as long as needed, because just like we can't imagine people of color simply accepting slavery or segregation without fighting back, or women simply accepting not to have the right to vote without fighting back, or workers simply accepting having to work non-stop without any breaks without fighting back. It is also that we can also imagine workers accepting less and less and less pay while we can see the money piling in the pockets of a privileged few. We just cannot accept it. We can't go on like this. Thank you. And all those previous fights that I just mentioned and many others that we benefit from now, they were also hard won. They also went on for years and years and years and years. And the reason they went on for years is that people would not give up. People would not give up of fighting what was fair and what was right. So if it's not us fighting it now today, it will be others fighting it later. I am sure I don't want to leave things as they are, as a legacy for those who come after me. I'm sure of that. Let us remember that our strikes don't exist in vacuum as well. Many of us here will recognize an iconic catchphrase popularized by the 70s film All President's Men. You know the phrase? Follow the money. If we follow the money, it is clear who the system we are living in is benefiting and who is it harming. It is a simple exercise that can be done across the board. We can see who owns our media, who funds the different political parties' campaigns, what contracts are offered to each company by who is benefiting from war, or from the cost of living crisis, or from ignoring the climate catastrophe. Who is benefiting and who is not. All these fights for a peaceful, sustainable, fair and more humane society, they are ours too. Because only when we have a fair and humane society, we'll have fair and humane workplaces. So the more people sit on the fence about all these issues, the longer all these fights will drag on, and the more will hurt those already affected and those who will inherit our society. And we should all want to be counted among those who did not leave it to others to fight for what is right. So we can't give up until we win. We must fight now for our present and for the future. Thank you.
Hello. Okay, next up we've got Richard Lonergan from PCS.
How's that? Right, so I'm the branch secretary for Senedd branch. Last year our branch members voted overwhelmingly to go... Last year our branch members voted overwhelmingly to go on strike. So taking industrial action is a massive step for us. We're lucky that we have a broadly good working relationship with our employer, and people are really proud to work for the Senedd. And some of our branch members did have reservations about taking action. And in addition to that, people are starting to struggle financially. I know that a lot of my branch members are struggling with their gas bills, their rent's going up, their mortgage is going up, spiralling childcare costs. And going on strike is a sacrifice, it's a financial sacrifice. And I think it's a sacrifice that we think is worth making to secure decent pay and decent working conditions. A fair day's pay for a fair day's work isn't something that happens by magic. It's not the result of a friendly wizard. It's not a gift from kindly bosses. It's not a result of inevitable historical progress. It only ever happens when working people are prepared to stand up, stand together, collectively negotiate for our common interests. And sometimes that negotiation requires that we withdraw our labour. It's worth remembering that in the last decade, the wealth of the UK's billionaires has tripled. And And there's nothing inevitable about the political choices that have resulted in a so-called cost of living crisis that result in 40,000 PCS members using food banks, or something like 47,000 PCS members in receipt of universal credit because they're not being paid enough money to live on. But union members across the country are taking industrial action and forcing their employers to negotiate, and I'm really proud to be part of that, and I'm proud to stand here on behalf of my branch, and I'm really proud to be stood here speaking to you. So your actions here are significant, it's important, it's meaningful what we're doing, and we can win this fight.
Hello everyone. Unison is here today to show solidarity with all striking workers in Wales and across the UK. Just this morning, Unison staff and activists pulled out of a student nurse event in Swansea University by refusing to cross a UCU picket line. Solidarity UCU. We're also here because the Tory government dismisses working class people, the people who keep this country running. Our members are worried that cost of living swallows so much of their wages each month, but the politicians in Westminster, the ones setting that budget, just won't get it. They should be embarrassed about offering healthcare staff and thousands of other public service workers a pay rise way below the rate of inflation, something we are then left scrambling to try and sort out the best we can here in Wales. The Tories have nothing to say about people working full-time still being trapped in poverty, or when hospitals are forced to set up food banks for their own staff, or when council workers have to sell their cars or remortgage their homes. They have nothing to say when care workers and teaching assistants are dependent on benefits or need loans from callous payday lenders. Nothing to say when our members tell us that they want to leave these vital roles because it's just not worth it for the financial worry. This is a callous Tory government. One that picks a shameful fight with refugees because it now wants to distract us from the cost of living crisis. If you make ideological decisions to suppress pay for more than a decade, people are going to be angry and people are going to fight back. Since 2010, local government workers have lost around a quarter of the value of their pay compared to the cost of living. Our members don't work in hospitals or schools to get rich quick, but they deserve to be treated fairly, offered decent pay and respect for the work that they do. So, we will watch what the Chancellor has to say today, but we know he's not going to do enough to help our ordinary working people, our union members, because this Tory government is only interested in demonising us. We are also here today to call for fair funding for Wales, but again, based on the last 13 years, I'm not going to hold my breath. Severe spending cuts since 2010 have stripped Welsh councils of at least 1.6 billion and cost more than 28,000 local authority jobs. Cuts are destroying Welsh communities and taking power away from people. The money Welsh Government gets from Westminster in our block grant doesn't account for the high levels of deprivation we have here in Wales, where 1 in 3 children live in poverty. There's a socialist way out of this crisis. The Welsh Government needs more money to invest in public services to tackle poverty. We also need to invest in public service workers. I'm going to turn my page. So, to finish, we need a fair tax system, a huge windfall tax on energy companies and the likes of Amazon, who are taking billions from us. Workers keep this country running. They deserve financial dignity. Solidarity to the striking workers, fair funding for Wales.
So we got Dave Evans here from the NEU. Dave has got this thing where he slips in a couple of lines from lyrics from songs and stuff in his speech. So I have said to him that it would be nice if I'm interested to see how many he can add in today. So he's got a little note. I'll put him on the spot. Let's see how well he does. So a couple of cheers for Dave. Hip hip.
Well, thanks, Shav. You have put me on the spot, because I haven't got a reference to a single bloody song. I will say, however, it's really nice to see so many people from different unions here. we've got the NAHT, we've got PCS, we've got UCU, we've got the NEU, we're here as well, we've got the trades councils. If I've missed anyone out, I apologise. It is absolutely fantastic to see you here. And I hope that David Davis, the Secretary of State for Wales, is up there in his ivory tower, looking down at you, demanding a better settlement for Wales, because that's what we need, and that's what we demand, and that's what we should get. I am going to take a little bit of issue with Shav, because Shav actually used one of my lines. I was going to say that striking works. It's not a pun, it's not a play on words, it's not an oxymoron. I accept that it does appear to be a contradictory statement. Striking industrial action terms, of course, is withdrawal of labour. So how can striking work? Well, let me tell you how it works from an NEU perspective. Firstly, I want to send apologies for our members who would be here today. We had an excellent turnout on the 1st of February, we had an excellent turnout on the 2nd of March down in Cardiff Bay, and they were gearing up to be here today, but they've had to go back to work because we've suspended strike action. The reason why we've suspended strike action is because we've had an improved offer. We've had an improved offer because striking works. Let me quickly analyse the facts. Until our ballot gave us a mandate for strike action, there were no talks. Until we announced strike dates, there were no offers. Until our first day of action, there was no improvement on what we'd already rejected. Until our second day of action, there was no further improvement. We have not settled our dispute. Just be clear on that, okay? The fact that we've suspended strike action does not mean there's a settlement. If necessary, we can reactivate the strikes if our members tell us to. We will be continuing to negotiate with the Welsh Government to try and make sure that our members get what they deserve and get what they demand. Our strike action has worked. Our strike action will continue to work. Your strike action is going to work. One of the reasons we're here today, of course, is the big issue of funding. And Jess mentioned the block grant during her speech just before me. Now, we all know about the Wales block grant. We know that it comes from Westminster to Cardiff Bay. We know that since 1980, it's been calculated by the Barnett formula. We all know that the Barnett formula does not meet our needs. There are a host of reports that tell us so. I'll give you a flavour of them. Back in 2009, there was a Lords Committee report that said that it does not fulfil our needs. In 2010, Jerry Holtham, the Holtham Commission report, told us it didn't fulfil our needs. In 2015, the Lords Committee again said it didn't fulfil our needs. Last year, 2022, a House of Commons briefing said it did not fulfil our needs. Well, let me just tell you, 2009 was 14 years ago. 2010 was 13 years ago. 2015 was 8 years ago. What have they done since last year when that briefing was prepared in June? Nothing. Nothing to settle our demands and what we need here in Wales. Someone said earlier that enough is enough. Well, yes, it is. There's a line of the song, Chow, enough is enough. So, let's make sure that we sort it out. The Wales funding should be 117% above England's needs. It's not. It's 105%, and that is totally inadequate. Today, on budget day, let's send a message to Rishi Sunak. Let's send a message to Jeremy Hunt. Let's send a message to David Davis here. Let's tell them that we want more, we demand more, and we should have more now. I just want to finish by thanking you all for taking the action you have. I want to thank you all for raising the profile of public service workers here in Wales. I want to thank you all for demanding a better result and demanding a better pay. You deserve it, we all deserve it, let's get it. Thank you.
Bina Devonish, she is here to speak on behalf of Stand Up to Racism. On Saturday, there's going to be a big demonstration in Cardiff, so she's going to be telling you all about it now.
Hi everyone. I think it's clear to see that we are all sick and tired of living under a government that continually puts profit over people. As inequalities deepen and the wealth divide, widens, we are stuck with a government that wants us to pay for its mistakes, wants us to push us to continue to pay for the mistakes. And in an attempt to distract us from those mistakes, we've seen the attacks they have launched on refugees. We've seen Suella Braverman describe the influx of migrants as an invasion. We have seen their pathetic plans to send people to Rwanda and their plans to criminalise people who come here illegally. When there is no legal route to seek asylum in the UK, what is illegal when there is no legal route? And in order for us to pay for the crisis, they continue to push us as workers. They continue to launch attacks on our pensions, on our contracts, and they continue to push us in a way that is unsustainable. We can't continue to live in a society where you can work 40 hours a week and still not afford to feed yourself. We cannot continue to live in a society where you work 40 hours a week and you still cannot afford to send your child to school or to nursery.
Profit! Our lives are not for profit! Our lives are not for profit! Our lives are not for profit!
With inflation continuing to build, us as workers, we have a right to fight for better, to fight for more. You can see how the government and bosses are fighting back with hiring and firing tactics, with precarious working contracts. And this fight back is because we are the ones who make the profit. We are the ones who hold the true power, and that is why they continue to fight back against us. But that is why we must continue to fight. Exploitation is a key component in this capitalist system, and racism is a key part of that as well. Racism is used as another way to break up the workforce. Racism is used as a distraction for us to look over there while they take from our pockets. Racism is used as a way to divide us. This current government is telling us to look at our shores in fear of foreign rapists, while we don't have no union has received a pay deal that's worth the paper it's written on. This shows that the true threat to our living standards and the true threat to our way of life is not coming from overseas. It already lives here. It lives in Downing Street. Our fight today is not with anyone who is here. Our fight is with those who come to our shores on mega yachts, not small boats. Our fight is with people who you will never see on a picket line. As workers, it is so important that we unite against racism and exploitation. Because if you allow it for one, then you allow it for all. We've seen that, precarious contracts are no longer reserved for, outsourced workers who exploit migrants. Now they're being used for substitute teachers, for junior doctors. This kind of system, it will consume us all if we don't fight back. We cannot allow it for one, and we will not allow it for anyone. We cannot allow this government to divide us and to point the finger at those who are vulnerable. We all want better for everyone, not just some of us. So let's continue to fight. This Saturday we have the demonstration at City Hall, the March Against Racism. I hope to see you all there. We will have people from different campaigns talking about injustice and inequality. We'll have Sianda Mingaza talking about her fight for justice. She was racially assaulted and she was subsequently put into prison for 4 years. We'll have John Actie from the Cardiff 5 coming to speak about their injustice that's happened in Cardiff. One of the biggest miscarriages of justice in British history happened in this city. And we'll have refugees coming to speak about how they've navigated this awful system, but also how they want to continue to fight against it, because they want to create a country of compassion, to provide sanctuary for people when they want to seek sanctuary in a safe environment.
So on Saturday, let's come together and let's fight against this government, fight against the bosses and fight against the fascists. We must say loud and clear, refugees are welcome here. No to fascism, no to racism, and let's push back the bosses, not boats.
Thank you, thank you.
Hello colleagues, comrades, David Nicholson from the National Union of Journalists, returning the solidarity you showed our members in Breach, which is the Western Mail, and the South Wales Echo, which is just round the back of this building here. They were on strike last year for better pay. You came out and showed them support on their picket lines, and we're returning the solidarity today to those on strike in Wales for better pay. That strike won. It was another victory for a trade union taking strike action. We won better pay, particularly for our poorer paid members at the Western Mail and the South Wales Echo. But we also, as a union, won a victory. We recruited 400 additional members who joined because of the strike. They were mainly under 30, and what they've learned from the strike, one is what trade unions do, but they also learn through their action that collective action and solidarity can win against even the biggest of corporations. So it's a really valuable lesson, and it's been a massive shot in the arm of a very small trade union to have 400 young people join it who have experienced strike action, who are now going to be the future of our union. So our solidarity back to you. We have members on strike today. The local news in England, our members working for local news in England have taken strike action from 11 o'clock today until 11 o'clock tomorrow, specifically targeting the budget. The reason it's relevant to Wales is because local news in Wales is under threat as well. It's under threat from the licence fee freeze that the Tories have imposed on the BBC, which is causing huge cuts to the corporation's output. It's causing huge cuts to local news, and it's going to cause cuts to the news that we get in Wales, because News 24 and BBC International News are being merged, and that means the local news on BBC 24, which covers the nations and the regions, will no longer be there in the numbers that it is at the moment, and that's yet another blow to the news service that Wales receives. I'm really glad to follow Stand Up to Racism. One little plug first, I'm the newly appointed Morning Star reporter for Wales, the only daily socialist paper in the English language. The Morning Star has made that investment in Wales with a reporter placed in the country because they realise the value and the lessons that the rest of the movement can learn on what happens in Wales. So I'm really pleased to be doing it, and if anyone's got stories, campaigns that they want to tell me about, I'll be around the stage afterwards if you want to come and see me about that. But the little plug is that I live in Lantwick Major, and on the 25th of March, a bunch of Hitler-loving fascists are descending on the town to protest against some refugee housing that's being built in Lantwick Major. We're trying to build a huge solidarity action counter-protest, so anyone here who wants to come to Lantwick on the 25th of March, trains once an hour, there's some brilliant pubs, fantastic scenery, and it'd be brilliant to chase the fascists out of town. Solidarity, comrades.
I'm sure many of you will remember the National Museum of Wales were on strike for a long time a couple of years back, but they've been back on the picket line again today. Kirsty was one of our rising stars at that time, so she was one of those individual members that joined the picket line, that started speaking to other local reps within the branch, and before you know it, she's running it. So here she is. I'm not surprised whatsoever. But I'm really glad to have her standing next to me today. So over to you, Kirsty.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. This National Day of Action is about standing up to secure and improve the rights of working people across the UK, just like all of you lovely, beautiful people here. I am so proud proud of every member of every union striking today, but has striked in the past, last year, and is going forward to strike. We are striking over issues including job cuts, national terms and conditions for pay, pensions and redundancies, which have come under sustained attack by this and previous UK governments. These terms are now in even sharper relief because of the cost of living crisis we are all facing. Inflation rates soar into a 41-year high in October 2022 at 11%. They now are just under the 10% range. What you earn doesn't go as far. We are dealing with the consequences of huge bills for energy and food, things that we cannot go without, necessities which many are finding now that they cannot afford. Food bank usage in the UK has soared. In the last year, 2.1 million emergency food parcels were issued in the UK. Over 131,000 of those were in Wales alone. The UK is the 5th richest economy in the world, but does it feel like that to you? Does it feel like that to your members? No. The UK government's narrative about the public sector is ideological. They have the money to support public sector and their workers. They think nothing of spending £140 million up front to pass on poor, vulnerable and desperate asylum seekers to Rwanda. They have spent £71 billion and counting on HS2 alone. But when it comes to ordinary people provided live on, there's no more money to be found. It is a deliberate choice. A deliberate choice like the UK government's decade-long austerity policy to public funds and services. A deliberate choice like the UK government's lead-up and disaster. A deliberate choice like the political instability that this UK central government has subjected us to hang on to power. 4 prime ministers in 6 years, one within 48 hours, had cost the UK economy £30 billion, making millions of people already struggling worse off. This fight is with the UK government, not the Welsh Assembly, because they are hamstrung by the budget they get handed to them by the UK central government. A government who has underfunded the public sector in Wales for years. The UK government is where we as individuals right here, right now, and all unions bring their pressure to bear to say enough is enough. I am so proud to support the union movement and their members to stand with them to bring about this positive changes they are trying to secure for all public sector workers. Strike action yields real results. Barristers, bus drivers, council workers and most recently the firefighters have all received a substantially higher pay percentage increase after their strike action. This is a fight that has gone on for centuries in Britain. Unions and their members fighting to obtain and improve the working terms and conditions, from an 8-hour working day to paternity leave. This is our fight, and I, like you, am not to be found on the sidelines. Together we are standing up for ourselves, for our other union members and working people to maintain and improve terms and working conditions that will make our society a better and more equal place. Thank you very much for listening, and solidarity to you all.
Right, we thought, like we did last time, it's become a bit of our thing now, we do a bit of chanting before we go. So I'm going to hand you over to AJ for a second. There you go.
Okay, so we're going to say support the strike. You say fight for our rights. Okay? Support the strikes! Fight for our rights! 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 Support